A penguin was painting a picture of a snowy owl on an iceberg when he heard it. Tap, tap, tap. At first, he thought it was just another hungry snowy owl looking for him to eat him. But then he realized that the tapping was coming from inside the iceberg. He finished his painting with a flourish and waddled over to investigate. The penguin felt something stirring inside of him, some long-forgotten urge to move to the music. He swayed side to side, then began flapping his flippers, keeping time with the woodpecker's drumming. He shuffled through some snowdrifts until he came to a narrow crevice between two icebergs. And that's where the tapping sound was coming from. At first he painted the outline of the woodpecker, then he filled in the colors, mixing shades of blue and white and brown to match the bird's red crest. The bird cocked his head and let out a series of rapid pecks, which the penguin understood to mean, "Thank you." Then the woodpecker did something that none of the other birds had done. He took the paintbrush from the penguin's flipper and dipped it into a puddle of melted snow. By the end of the song, he had created a portrait of the woodpecker that was almost as good as his drumming. Finally, he had an idea. The next morning, the penguin woke up early and waddled over to the woodpecker's tree. He knocked on the trunk with his beak and shouted, "Woodpecker, are you awake? I want to invite you to my igloo today. Of course I want you to come. You're the guest of honor." "All right, I'll come," he said with a smile. The puffins had carved icy lanterns that glowed with warm candlelight, and the snowy owls had made a huge bonfire in the center of the igloo. All of them had come to celebrate the music and the art that it inspired. The red-crested woodpecker sat proudly on a block of ice as the penguin introduced him to the crowd. The flames crackled and popped as the animals gathered inside the igloo. The penguin joined in, dancing and painting at the same time. The animals were lost in the moment, their bodies moving to the rhythm, their spirits soaring with the music. The woodpecker closed his eyes and began to peck out a new melody, a slow and haunting tune that spoke of their friendship and the music that had brought them together. Suddenly the music stopped. The animals all turned to the red-crested woodpecker, who was standing in the center of the circle, his beak raised in the air. His brush flew across the ice, leaving behind a trail of sparkling colors. He painted the other animals as they danced, capturing their joy and laughter in his art. That afternoon, the penguin's igloo was transformed into a winter wonderland. Snowflakes fell softly outside, while inside, music filled the air. Every year they hosted a winter music hand paint day for the other animals, celebrating the power of music to bring people together and unlock their creativity. And as the years passed, the legend of their friendship echoed through the frozen forest, inspiring other animals to pick up a paintbrush or learn to play an instrument. For they knew that music could unlock anything, even the frozen heart of a woodpecker. "It's because of your drumming that we're having this party. Please come." The penguin stood, mesmerized, tears welling up in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. "This was the most beautiful music I've ever heard." The woodpecker blushed, but he knew the penguin was right. They had created something truly special that night, a bond of friendship that would last forever. He'd never heard anything so beautiful, so moving. It was as if the music was speaking directly to his heart. "We all call all the birds and animals in the forest, and we all have a winter music hand paint day. It'll be a celebration of your music and the art that it inspires." Soon the other birds were doing it too, creating their own icy masterpieces. The penguin had never seen anything like it. A puffin painted a rainbow, an Arctic tern drew a sun, and the snowy owl created a portrait of the fox. The penguin slid down onto his belly and peered into the crack. The penguins swayed back and forth, clapping their flippers like castanets. The puffins bobbed up and down, pecking out a counter-melody. The Arctic terns swooped and soared, their voices ringing like bells. The snowy owls hooted and howled, their music echoing through the igloo. The penguins stared back, fascinated by the beautiful patterns that the woodpecker had been pecking into the icicles. "I want to thank you for what you did yesterday. Without his drumming, none of this would have happened." The crowd cheered and the woodpecker blushed. He had never realized that his music could have such an impact on the other animals. "You showed me that music can unlock our creativity and turn ordinary days into extraordinary ones." It was as if the bird was turning the frozen waterfall into a mural, except instead of paint, he was using his beak. As the sun began to set, the penguin looked around at all the paintings that had been created during the song. If it hadn't been for the bird's drumming, none of this would have happened. The penguin knew he had to do something to repay the woodpecker for his kindness. something that would show him just how much he appreciated his music. He couldn't believe how beautiful they were. But each one was being tapped into a different rhythm by a red-crested woodpecker. The woodpecker was so focused on his icy drum set that he didn't see the penguin staring at him. All the while, the red-crested woodpecker kept up his icy drumming, laying down the beat for this impromptu percussion section. And instead of just tapping the icicles to make them ring like bells, he was pecking out actual melodies, little icy tunes that echoed through the frozen forest. As he danced, the penguin noticed other birds gathering around the clearing. An Arctic tern hopped closer. At first, he just swayed side to side, but then he started to tap his beak against his chest, keeping time with the music. A snowy owl swooped down from above and perched on an icicle. She listened intently to the woodpecker's drumming, then spread her wings, letting them clap together like cymbals. More birds joined in, a huddle of penguins, a flock of puffins, even a pair of Arctic foxes who tapped their bushy tails against the ground like castanets. As the music built, the penguin picked up his paints again and began to dance and paint at the same time. When the music stopped, the penguin waddled over to the woodpecker and presented him with the painting. Then he began to peck out another rhythm on the icicles, and the penguin joined in, painting along with the music. It was as if the music had unlocked something inside of them, some creative spark that turned their simple pecks and splashes of color into art. He turned to the woodpecker and bowed his head in thanks. He thought about this for a moment as he walked back to his igloo. "Yes, I'm awake," the woodpecker replied sleepily. "What is it, penguin?" The penguin took a deep breath and said. The woodpecker was confused. "I don't understand." "What do you mean?" the penguin smiled. The woodpecker was touched by the penguin's words. "Oh, I don't know. Are you sure you want me to come?" The penguin laughed. The woodpecker couldn't say no to the penguin's enthusiasm. The Arctic terns had strung up colorful kelp streamers from the ceiling. There were penguins and puffins, Arctic terns and snowy owls, even a family of polar bears. "This is the woodpecker who inspired us all to create," the penguin said. He took a deep breath and pecked out a rhythm on an icicle hanging from the ceiling, and then the music began. The animals all took their places, and at the center of it all, the red-crested woodpecker drummed his heart out, laying down the beat for this wild symphony. As the night wore on, the music grew louder, and the paintings became more elaborate. He had an idea. He wanted to end the night with something special, something that would show the penguin how much he appreciated his friendship. The other animals joined in, their voices weaving together into a tapestry of sound. When the last note faded away, the penguin approached the woodpecker and embraced him with his flippers. From that day forward, the red-crested woodpecker and the penguin remained the best of friends,